And we are live once again here on NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey, Stone Shields, behind the scenes for today's live show as we run through all the latest around the NFL. And perhaps to the chagrin of some of you, that it once again involves Aaron Rodgers. You got a couple of options here, it feels like. The Steelers, which is probably your betting favorite here. Retirement, which is maybe the Steelers decide not to wait and end up moving on and going a different direction, or they choose to retire, or a different team ends up emerging. Maybe he does get his wish to go to the Vikings. So where do you think Aaron Rodgers ends up for the 2025 season? S for the Steelers, R for retirement, O for other. Let me know in the comments of today's show and the pinned poll as well. 71% voting for the Steelers right now, 29% voting for retirement. No votes for other, which I find fun and entertaining, and I'm sure now that I said it, we'll get at least one other vote. Very small sample size still right now, but S, R, or O, where do you think Aaron Rodgers ends up? We do have the, latest, if we can call it that. Sometimes it kind of feels like, non-updates, but hey, we're like 3 weeks away from the draft. Like, at a certain point, you got to start making decisions. Like, you kind of can't keep dragging this bad boy out and out and out. Like, you got to go. You got to start making calls here. MA Football Guy has a $5 super chat. There has not been a vote for other, so as expected. Hey, Tom, Big Dad Bob. Thank you, MA Football Guy. Can't wait for the draft, man. Me too. I am excited. I think we got some really fun stuff cooked up for everybody here. Should be entertaining. Should be a lot of fun. Across the board with just what we have planned and plus knowing where the picks end up going. That's always extremely fun. All right, Aaron Rodgers' next team. Get the votes in here. SRO in the comments of today's show. Let me know in the comments section of today's video where you think he ends up going. SRO for Steelers, retirement, or other for Aaron Rodgers. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their best price guarantee, their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. For whatever team, it's obviously a national show, whatever team you're a fan of, you can get up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for not just baseball games, but any sport and concert, comedy, theater, and all the stuff in between as well. Game Time Picks makes last-minute ticket buying easier than ever by quickly highlighting the best deals in the stadium, arena, or concert hall, whatever. Zone deals save you even more when you choose a section like Game Time, then choose the seats. Game Time's guarantee is this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Hit the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, the lowest price, all guaranteed. We'll talk Shedeur Sanders during the mock draft, of course, because I don't know where he goes. The news today, the Steelers are having a official 30 visit with Shedeur Sanders, which isn't a huge surprise, and I don't know if that means he'll slide or not, but I think it means at least the Sanders camp thinks that he might, or a trade up is a possibility. Will Sanders end up being a top 10 pick? Y for yes, N for no. Is it the Browns? Is it the Giants? Seems like those have grown less likely over the past couple weeks at most. Jets have been mentioned by some. I'm not really sure I buy it. The Saints stand out there. And then after the Saints pick, you can go on a run of like that team's not taking Shedeur, that team's not taking, that team's not taking, that team's not taking, that team's not taking. It kind of drops off pretty quickly of like the available options, and then you get to the Steelers down there in the 20s. So will he end up going top 10? Probably one of the bigger pivot points in the draft, those first couple picks, because that's going to impact a lot beyond it. Y for yes, N for no. Vote for me in the comments section of today's show. Will Shedeur Sanders be a top 10 pick? Y for yes, N for no. Casey the Sledge says no. William Jr. say no. Ecuadorman, your boy, Shelly, all typing in Y for yes in the comments. Will Shedeur Sanders end up being a top 10 pick? Now, speaking of quarterbacks here, how many QBs in round 1 and round 2 end up getting drafted? We'll see what Mel has in his, I think it's his final mock draft. There's still some uncertainty there, but he didn't do one after this time last year, which I found really interesting. How many QBs end up going in both round 1 and round 2 combined? Your potential candidates here are, obviously Cam Ward's going number 1 overall. I think Shedeur will go in the first 2 rounds. And then does Jackson Dart go in that range? Does he even go potentially round 1? Does Jalen Milroe sneak into that range? He's going to the NFL draft. He was invited. Does Tyler Shuck sneak in? I've seen some mocks with Quinn Ewers round 2, which is insane to me, but whatever. How many QBs go in round 1 and round 2? Ecuador Man's got 2. He's got Dart, Ward, Sanders, Milroe. Big Jack 757 has 4. Casey's got 2. Mark Barron's got 8. There's no way it's going to be 8. I think the over/under might be like 4.5. Maybe the proper over/under there. Bryce and Steelers' dad both say 3 as well. So get those comments in. How many QBs do you think go between round 1 and round 2 of this year's upcoming NFL draft? If you are ready for us to start today's live show, do us a favor. Like the video. Free, simple, easy, helps keep the light on and help us have success here with all the things we do at Chat Sports. Goal was always that 50% like ratio. So if you haven't already, do me a favor and like it. Coming up on today's live NFL Daily, we've got NFL news and rumors, a mailbag. Get your questions in via hashtag NFL or Super Chat if you want to skip the line altogether. Get your questions in no matter what, like MA Football Guy, a.k.a. Dadbot, has been doing. And we'll also break down Mel Kiper's final NFL mock draft. Now, his article didn't specify final, but other ESPN people have said it's his final one, so there's uncertainty. But it's what he did last year, too, which I think is kind of weird, but because I would want to wait all the way to the draft. I do it the Wednesday before. Anyway, I digress. MA Football Guy. Think S as in the Steelers for Rodgers. Should be R for retire. Dadbod's my social football handle, by the way. Appreciate that, MA/Dadbod. Maybe I'll just call you both. And Shedeur will go top 10. I'm very excited to see where Shedeur goes because that one could have some drama on draft night, which the NFL, of course, always loves getting. So get your questions in via Super Chat or hashtag NFL, and we'll get into the first segment of today's show. Before we get into today's show, we will discuss all 3 things: the NFL draft, trade rumors, and NFL free agency. Of those 3, what do you enjoy watching more of when it comes to NFL YouTube videos? Vote D, T, or F in the comment section of today's show. Let's talk Aaron Rodgers here. The saga, the decision, continues to not be fully clear as of filming. We are rapidly approaching this year's NFL draft. We are, at this point, we can count the days that we are away from the NFL draft getting going. And at some point, Pittsburgh has to have their answer from Rodgers. Even if it's kind of just not signed, they need some of a verbal commitment here. The Steelers remain the main team here, but per multiple reports, there's been no real progress from their last meeting. And nothing really new since owner Art Rooney came out and said, yeah, we feel pretty good about it. The signs point that direction. Okay, it's been a week since that. Here's what Jeremy Fowler of ESPN said on SportsCenter. I'm told from the Steelers that they remain optimistic, but nothing has changed from when Art Rooney, team president, addressed the media at owners' meeting on Tuesday. That they feel good about this shaking out, that Rodgers will be a Pittsburgh Steeler. I have not got definitive word, but they're willing to wait, quote-unquote, a little longer. My question is this: how much longer can you really, truly wait? They need a starting quarterback option. It's not an accident nor a surprise, frankly, that they're bringing in Shedeur Sanders for a pre-draft visit. They brought other guys in for a pre-draft visit as well. They need a long-term answer. That is certainly not Aaron Rodgers. Given his age, injury is a big question mark. But if they want Rodgers, they can't wait forever. And it is April 8th. Off-season programs begin in days for NFL teams. At a certain point, the question becomes, okay, why are you waiting? Which is what Jeremy Fowler also acknowledged. The Minnesota Vikings, is he waiting them out? That is sort of a lingering question out there. But when I talked about the Vikings, this is all but dead for them, essentially. Maybe if he's available later in the summer, they could revisit, but it seems so unlikely at this point. So it's Steelers, retirement, or bust. So which is it? S for the Steelers, R for retirement, or you can sneak in O for other and comment. Let me know which team that is. If you have one, you can be funny and type, put a UFL team if you want to. S, R, or O, go vote at the pinned comments of today's video. Now, there is the very fun theory out there that Rodgers is going to announce, WWE style at Pat McAfee's Pittsburgh event on Wednesday. I probably, unless the deal gets signed, agreed to before then, I wouldn't anticipate Rodgers being there. The Athletics' Mark Cabell, I think I just pronounced it, has said that was not happening. And then even more importantly, Pat McAfee himself said that it's just not going to happen. So he's not, if Pat thought it might happen, I think it'd be a little bit more like open-ended. But, when the decision comes to Rodgers is kind of a big deal for Pittsburgh. They really don't want to wait that much longer. Let's move to Trey Hendrickson. We've got some conflicting info on the, concerning, sloppy situation between Hendrickson and the Bengals. To be quite honest, I don't think the Bengals have handled this correctly. Hendrickson is looking for a new contract. He has not gotten one yet. He requested a trade on the eve of last year's draft. And, now this offseason, the first time he got an extension, kind of a one-year extension, but put him right back in the same spot this year. He seems to think the Bengals are going to take care of him. The Bengals haven't taken care of him yet. It's been rough. You got Katie Blackburn putting her foot in her mouth saying Hendrickson just needs to be happy at some point. It's not gone well. And it keeps the door open for a potential trade, which we'll discuss here in depth. But first, today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. And not just MLB tickets, but basketball, concerts, comedy, theater, everything else in between. I am a big fan of the seat view. It's kind of a panoramic, live photo style view from your seat in the app. Just kind of move your phone up, down, left, right, whatever, to actually get a feel for where you're sitting so you don't become the mean version of the guy sitting behind the wall that can't see anything. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, all guaranteed. Just make note the terms do apply. Here's what Ian Rappaport had on the latest on Hendrickson. Yeah, it's a little messy. I believe the Bengals like to keep him and pay him and make it work. They are not in the business of letting good players go. So even when they granted permission to seek a trade, I believe their best option was to sign him and pay him. We'll see if that happens. I still think it is very, very possible. And if that happens, despite all the mess, it'll be a really good offseason in Cincinnati. That's what Rapp said. Now, Tony Pauline, who is hit and miss, but is more of a draft guy, says many tell me Bengals will do this. Take an edge with the 17th pick and then trade Hendrickson on the draft weekend or soon after the 7 rounds are completed. Now, I am more inclined to believe Ian Rappaport there. That is, the Bengals have kind of said they wanted to. That defense doesn't have enough good pieces to justify trading Hendrickson. They frankly missed on too many draft picks. I get trying to not overpay, but who else on that team do you even want to pay right now? You don't have a lot of big contracts from the pipeline. You're better off just simply paying Hendrickson. So do you think that ends up happening, or is something else potentially coming down the pipeline? Will the Bengals pay Trey Hendrickson? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's video. Get those predictions in. Let's talk on the trade here. This is on one Breece Hall. ESPN mentioned the Jets could shop Hall depending on how the NFL draft goes, and then Hall kind of quote tweeted a meme of a negative reaction reading your phone, so I'm assuming he saw the tweet there. Basically, Aaron Glenn is saying for today a more committee approach, to have multiple different backs involved in Philadelphia or in New York, and to be involved. Braylon Allen impressed down the stretch last year. But that means more or means less reps for Breece Hall. And by the way, Breece Hall is in a contract year. The running back market is already so tenuous as it is, he probably doesn't like that. Here's what ESPN's Rich Cimini wrote on Breece Hall. Glenn's comments surely will fuel trade speculation. Hall's among a handful of players up for a contract extension, most notably Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, both drafted in the same year as Hall. It will be difficult to keep them all long-term. Side note, it's actually probably not because they're not paying a quarterback right now. Anyway, Hall is a gifted player who would attract interest if they go to trade talks. Perhaps the Jets would consider moving him if Boise State star Ashton Jeanty is available with the 7th pick in the April 24 draft. That's noteworthy because we haven't seen a ton of mentions about or about Jeanty and the Jets, by the way. We'll talk about Jeanty here in a moment as well. The biggest issue for Breece Hall is this. His numbers have declined the past 3 years. 5.8 yards per carry in 2022 to 4.5 to 4.2. Not like the Jets were the most conducive environment to ground game success last year, but it is worth mentioning. Hall also has 1 year left on his contract. I've seen some trade ideas out there of like teams giving up a 3rd-round pick and more for Breece Hall. I think that's wildly unlikely. I think he is a day 3 at best trade value because he got 1 year of him at affordable $3.4 million, but he's never had 1,000 yards. So no one's giving up a third, I don't think, for 1 year rental at running back. That's not how NFL teams operate. And in the end, I only see a potential Breece Hall trade happening if the Jets spend a 1st or a 2nd or an early 3rd-round pick on a back. At that point, they probably end up getting calls. But I don't think it's a likely outcome right this moment. We are rapidly approaching 406,000 subscribers here on Chat Sports. 243 away. Help us get there. Hit that sub button for more free videos and live NFL draft coverage right now. Let's talk Ashton Jeanty. He is one of the best players in this year's NFL draft, but he plays one of the least valued positions, running back. So how early does he end up going? We've got some lines available out there we'll break down. The over-under on his draft pick slot. So over 9.5, meaning after pick 9.5, so 10 and beyond, is plus 200. Under is minus 250, which i.e. is like the Bears pick at number 10. If he's there, do the Bears pass on him? Is basically minus 250. So it's pretty likely that they think that he's gone before the Bears pick, which is noteworthy. Does he make it to Chicago in the first place? We'll break that down in a second. Who do you think will end up drafting Ashton Jeanty? Because if you think it's the under on the 9.5, he's gone before the Bears pick. It's one team that really, really stands out there. Let me know in the comments of today's show. It's interesting to see the difference in the over-under 9.5 and maybe they're kind of factoring in some trade-up potential because the Raiders are the main team that could go off the board and take Jeanty before that pick. They're at minus 130. The Bears are plus 250. Then it's the Cowboys at plus 800, Jacksonville plus 1,200, Saints plus 13, Niners, Jets, Patriots plus 18. To put that in, not math, just percentages, the implied probability is 56.5% Raiders, 28.6% Bears, 11% Cowboys, 7% Jags and Saints, and 5% Niners, Jets, and Patriots with some rounding on that front. Jeanty is a special football player. This is I think is going to be a pretty consensus top 5 pick in the NFL draft in terms of like the big boards you see out there, not the mock drafts, just the big boards in the end. He never did the athletic testing. I don't think he's an elite speedster. That's fine. He's not slow at all. He had 2,600 yards this year. 1,970 were after contact. After contact. Now, he had so many carries that's actually probably a red flag, but the sheer dominance that he showed pretty much regardless of opponent, because he cooked Oregon too, is wildly impressive. He's also, by the way, very good in as a pass catcher too. My biggest concern is cut down on the fumbling, and he's had a lot of touches in his career. That, might limit him a little bit. It is mailbag time here on NFL Daily. 2 ways to get on the show. Number 1, Super Chat. Guarantees you end up getting on. Or you can use hashtag NFL. Now, hashtag NFL does put you in the queue, so producer Chris has to producer Stone has to pick your question. He may or may not. So Super Chats are guaranteed to get on. Hashtag NFL is an additional path of just getting you in the queue. So let me sip some water before we start talking for 11 minutes straight again. Doesn't have to be questions about it. It can be comments, thoughts, opinions, anything that we can just discuss in general. Get them in via hashtag NFL or by super chatting. Before we get into today's mailbag, there is an additional way to get on the show beyond using the hashtag NFL or super chatting on our live shows. It's called a super thanks. Allows you to edit your message, send in whatever, and comment, question, thought, whatever it is. Go, if you're watching on demand, i.e. not live, click that $ sign with the heart icon, edit your message, send it in, and we'll give you a shout out on a future show. First up from Tony, I am worried about my Chiefs in 2025, my friend Tom, but I know KC will get what they need in the draft, but how do I know for sure they'll be really competitive? Because that's all they do. I think there's some natural, disappointment, frustration, whatever, that we were hoping for more. We didn't have a great Super Bowl showing. You also made it to the Super Bowl. You haven't lost to an AFC team in the playoffs in how many years now? You'll be competitive. You'll be a Super Bowl contender every year. There's stuff they have to get better at, but it's the Chiefs. They're good. I think that's pretty obvious right now. True Allure. So the Niners trade down if there's a player that they don't like. Yeah, I think that's what every team should do, right? That's kind of the issue that I think you tend to run into here, is that if this goes not just for the Niners, but for any NFL team, whether you're picking 5 or 15 or 11 or 25, if there's not a lot of options that you're in love with, or there's a bunch of options, then you should always try to trade down. The problem is, especially if you don't like the players on the board, is there a team that wants to trade up? You can always trade down, but are you going to get the right value? And if you're not getting good value, it's probably not worth it at that point. Because at that point, it's just kind of might not be feasible. It doesn't make logical sense. So you can trade down, but is there a willing partner who will pay you what you want? That's always the big question. From Tyreek Grill. Anyway, could you see a Tyreek Hill trade on draft night? I'd be surprised. It's not impossible. The money's not great for anybody involved. The Dolphins eat a bunch of it. A new team still owes a bunch of money as well. I have questions about the likelihood of a Tyreek Hill trade this year. Next year could be a very different conversation, and at that point maybe teams move on. But I am inclined to go with they try to just run it back for one more year, and then maybe next year they make some more wholesale changes. So predictions. Good job listening to the Flystone. Will Dolphins trade Tyreek Hill? Y for yes, N for no. It is the pinned comment on today's show. The ad comes here on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Junior Estrada, what should the Patriots do if Hunter and Carter are gone in the draft? I think there's 2 main options. Outside of trade down, which they could try, but again, I don't know who's coming up to trade up in that scenario. I don't really find it very likely, like we just mentioned. Just take the best player on your board. And that could be a Mason Graham. Could be Ashton Jeanty. Could be one of those guys. We're just going to take the best player. Or they're in love with the surprise defender like Jalen Walker or something. Or they just address their biggest need, which is we're just going to take Will Campbell or Armand Bembou and have a franchise tackle to protect Drake May. I think either of those paths probably seem the most likely. from DJ KJ. Again, we're filming this on our Tuesday live show, so hopefully one's made by then. When is Rodgers going to finally make a decision? I don't know. Hopefully soon. He really shouldn't wait any longer. He should have made one already. Steelers, on the fly here, Steelers offseason program begins April 21st with strength and conditioning, and you got some meetings there. So, in theory, you would like to have your starting quarterback in the building by then. Will they? I actually don't know. That's what makes it all so curious to me. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Springtime is here. Baseball season is officially underway. Do not miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond to your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Today, it's available in more than 30 states, California, Texas, and Georgia included. You can do baseball or season-long football Prize Picks. I like the less than on all 3 of these because I am worried about the Lions' offense. Rashee Rice will eat into Travis Kelce's touches. The Commanders probably don't want Jay Daniels to run as much. I think all 3 of those lead towards the less than. So if you haven't already, go download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. DC times Viper. Do you feel this is the year from the QB issue that maybe is Tomlin's last year if they fail to reach the playoffs? Look, at some point, Mike Tomlin has to have some of the blame for why the roster and the offense and quarterback play isn't good enough. He's the head coach. He has always done a great job of maximizing the talent available, but at a certain point, he's picking the OCs. He's going to put on the QB. If it fails so often, doesn't he get some blame at some point? With that said, I don't know. I would probably lean towards no because in theory they have Rodgers and they still draft somebody and they get to try the young QB path again. I know he's a top 10 coach. This isn't the NBA where you're sitting 4th in your conference and you get fired before the playoffs begin. Not division conference. Looking at you out there, Denver. I would be. It's never impossible, but I would put it under the surprise. Unless it's really, really, really bad. Stephen Jones burner. What is Jair Alexander's future? It's a good question. I don't know. I could see him getting cut, though that might have happened already if they were going to. I think they would like to trade him and get some assets back. I don't know who wants that contract. It kind of feels like a staring contest. So they approach him about a pay cut. Does Alexander want to do a pay cut? It's been a little, it's not toxic, but there's been some bumps in the road in that relationship because Alexander can be a little, I don't know, a bit of a head case times. So I thought he would have been cut by now. He hasn't. So I am very much in the, I got to see it play out. What do you think ends up happening with the Packers and Jair Alexander? T for they trade him, K for they cut him, or keep him. T for trade, K for keep. I just merged cup and cut into one somehow, which makes no sense. K for keep, T for trade. Go vote in the comments of today's show. Wolfpack, should the Jets trade a Breece Hall to the Indianapolis Colts? I mean, what are the Colts offering? Because if I'm the Colts and I've got Jonathan Taylor, am I trading a premium asset for 1 year rental of a backup back? Can't I just draft somebody and have that guy for 4 years at a very, very cheap rate as opposed to 1 year at a $3 million price tag? You can call. Both teams can call, but I think that the return trade, unless the Jets already drafted somebody, probably isn't great. Now, don't miss out on any NFL news, rumors, live NFL draft coverage. hit that sub button right now. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Paul 5486. With the Dolphins looking like Swiss cheese, who do they draft? D-line, corner, safety, or left guard? I'll go kind of in order here. I think they have to add multiple defensive linemen. That might not be in round 1, but at minimum, this team should be drafting like Alfred Collins on day 2 and 1 or 2 day 3 interior defensive linemen. They don't have the bodies, let alone the talent there, really beyond Zach Sieler. They have to add multiple players there. Kenneth Grant in round 1, Alfred Collins on day 2. Both those guys make sense. Corner, look, you probably have 2 if you trust Kid or Kohu. Jalen Ramsey's 1. You going to bank on Storm Duck? Could you take Will Johnson in round 1? There's going to be like a bunch of day 2 corners in that range, just some combination of Maxwell Harrison, Benjamin Morrison, Savon Revel at ECU could maybe be there in round 2. Safety needs help. They have bodies, Melifonwu and Ashton Davis, but like Malachi Starks, Nick Monwari, Xavier Watts on day 2. And I don't ever want to start Liam Eichenberg again. So I would love to get a guard too. That's 4 starters you're searching for plus depth. The math ain't mathing. And unless they can trade down, get a bunch more assets, they're going to be light. Please don't spend another day 3 or another day 2 or early day 3 pick on a back. Don't do that again, please. Jenny, will the Eagles trade Bryce Huff? Maybe. That one is a tricky contract. I've got my notes here. I was talking with Harrison about it. He's got a pretty big option bonus that's due before the season begins. Now, the option bonus doesn't impact the cap very much, but Philadelphia's going to be eating dead money. They'd be paying him more to not be on their roster. They could eat some of the option bonus. I don't know if they want to. A new team would owe him $16.75 in cash. He was a scratch in the Super Bowl. I don't know what the Bryce Huff future looks like. I wouldn't. This could be your very rare, actively choosing to make him a post-June 1st trade to try to save some money short-term for Philadelphia. So name a player who you think gets traded. Let me know in the comments section of today's show what player you think ends up getting shipped out. Cali Lama, excluding Jaden Daniels, which QB do you think will have the best sophomore season? It's a good question. Look, I am going to lean towards Caleb Williams. He's got Ben Johnson. I think that should work really well. I think all 4 guys you should feel kind of good about. If you're a Bears fan, a Patriots fan, a Falcons fan, or a Broncos fan, you'd be like, yeah, this feels pretty good. I think Williams and Drake May probably have the most room to take significant steps forward relative to what they did last year. Both teams also swapped out their head coaches. So there's also more of a gamble involved there. I think Penix has plenty of ability. I think Bo Nix was maybe one of the more consistent of those 4 guys. So I am excited to see how those guys all grow in year 2. But I lean Caleb Williams, and I'm also very excited about Drake May's long-term outlook as well, especially if they can get a tackle in the draft. This is not football related, but I just can't resist doing it because I am a big golf guy because I am a nerd because I'm a middle, early 30s white guy. I like to golf. I'm a stereotype. Who you got winning the Masters this year? Do you have any thoughts on this one, Stone? And I know you're also a golf guy here.
I am a golf guy for sure. I hate it's boring, but he's awesome.
Don't say Scotty.
And I'm rolling with Scotty.
You
got Rory. You got Rory. He's second.
This is the year for Rory, baby. Yeah. I am gonna get my heart broken. I have no doubts about it.
Yeah.
It was a bonus bet. It's fine. It's free money.
Yeah.
Kali Lama has Colin Morikawa. I think that's a good pick too.
Seen that a lot.
He's both Morikawa and Rory are kind of peaking at the right time. I like looking for guys that have played well going into majors. That's very much Morikawa. It's kind of not Scott right now. Ecuador wins as Tiger. I wish he was playing. That 2019 Masters, which I bet on him to win. I'll never forget that. That was incredible.
Incredible. Does Phil make the cut?
No.
No.
I think that He won't make the cut in any other major this year. He might make it at Augusta. Just because he knows the course well. Also, it's a smaller field with like the back 15 guys are bad.
Yeah.
They're amateurs and 70-year-old guys like Bernard Longer that are going to retire after this. And
Mike
Freddie
Weir.
Couples, whose back is going to fall apart. Wolfpack's got Bryson. I don't know if Augusta fits him well enough. John Dowd's got Scheffler wins again, gives everyone the bird. Scotty's too nice of a guy. He's not going to flip people off there. That's just non-football talk there, just to reset the palate, so to speak. So, who you got winning the Masters this year? Let me know in the comments section of today's show, and then we will get into Mel Kiper's latest and potentially final 2025 NFL mock draft. Now, this is exactly why you guys should subscribe to us here on Chat Sports. ESPN Plus is $120 plus per year. We're free. $0. It costs nothing other than just your time to watch our stuff. We will always be free. Free videos every single day. Live NFL draft coverage this year as well. Breaking down everything going on around this year's NFL draft. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Mel Kiper has dropped what seems to be his final 2025 NFL mock draft. He has not said it was his final one in the article, but Field Yates had said it was his final one. And last year, he did something similar where he didn't put out a mock draft beyond this time of the year. So let's get into it. 2 rounds. We'll go quick at some parts, slower in others. Cam Ward. Look, the second the Titans canceled their Shedeur Sanders meeting, it was very clear this team is taking Cam Ward number 1 overall. Barring some stunning trade, it's Cam Ward at number 1. Number 2 is where the draft begins. Is it Sanders, Abdul Carter, or is it Travis Hunter, the wide receiver / corner out of Colorado, who'd probably play more receiver in the NFL, in Cleveland in particular. So Hunter goes 2, leaving a quarterback hole for Cleveland. The Giants also pass on Shedeur Sanders. They go Abdul Carter. It's in a unique trio with Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, which I don't know how that fits together, but this is just the Giants taking the best player on the board, and that's tough to get too mad about. With Carter and Hunter off the board, as I almost embarrassingly merged those 2 names, the Patriots take Will Campbell. Now, look, I don't think there's going to be a trade up here for a QB. Mel kind of hinted at that. If Hunter and Carter are off the board, plugging in Campbell, who's got arm length concerns, but can be a starter at left tackle in theory, does fill their biggest need. Number 5, Mason Graham to the Jacksonville Jags. I just think this makes so much sense. I think Mel has mocked this in every single one of his mock drafts, like since the year ended. It makes sense. It fills a need, and it's probably BPA as well. Number 6, Ashton Jeanty, the Raiders there. I think there's a chance they go corner here. I don't think they're going to go Shedeur after having re-signed Geno Smith as well. But adding a legitimate number 1 back to a group that doesn't have a real one is a huge need filled. Armand Membu to the Jets. And you go back-to-back tackles, right? Olu Fashanu, and then at left tackle, and Membu at right tackle. Tyler Warren, I think, also makes some sense, but with what Aaron Glenn saw in Detroit, maybe offensive line investment is the path they choose to go. Also the same pick in 4 straight mock drafts for Mel Kiper, Jalen Walker, the edge / linebacker, really, out of Georgia. He can do a bit of both and probably will do a bit of both. I think Mel probably views him more as an off-ball linebacker. Also of note, he has a pre-draft visit with the Browns, which I found really interesting too. Here is the Shedeur Sanders landing spot. Number 9 to the Saints. Mel is a big Shedeur Sanders fan. I'll make note. Look, if Shedeur doesn't go to the Saints, he might slide a lot, barring a trade-up. The Bears aren't going to go QB. The Niners, the Cowboys, the Dolphins. I don't think the Colts, the Falcons, the Cardinals, the Bengals, probably not Seattle. The Bucs aren't going QB. And then it's Denver's not going QB. Then you get to 21. So there's kind of a big fall off. If he doesn't go 9, does he get all the way down to 21? That's a pretty big question mark for me. So prediction time. Will Shedeur Sanders end up being a top 10 pick. Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comment section of today's video. It's a pinned comment. The ad comes here on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. No Jeanty. Top 2 linemen are gone. Oftentimes you see Tyler Warren mocked here. That is what Mel Kiper has the Bears doing. A lot of 2 tight end personnel could be a ton of fun for Ben Johnson and Chicago. I like Will Johnson a lot. I don't know if the Niners are going to spend a first-round pick on a corner. They've got pretty big needs along the trenches, but I would not be mad at it. I think he is a very, very talented football player. Mel seems to be convinced Marion Hampton's going to be the pick here out of North Carolina for the Cowboys. The Cowboys beat writers don't seem to be nearly as confident in that one, even the one over at ESPN. Keep an eye on Tedero McMillan, maybe Matthew Golden here as well. Jahdae Barron to the Dolphins at 13. They got a lot of needs, and the cornerback 2 spot is certainly one of them. I am a big fan of Barron's game, of his play. The arm length means he won't be for everybody. With no Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland is the pick at 14 out of Michigan. The Colts got nothing from the tight end room last year. So adding an impact starter, whether it's Warren or in this case Loveland, makes a ton of sense. The Falcons had 31 sacks all year. Second fewest in the NFL last year. I feel like every mock draft is the Falcons adding insert pass rusher. Every one of them. Mike Green's got outfield stuff to that, but he was incredibly productive as a pass catcher last year. Or pass rusher. Excuse me. Number 16, Matthew Golden to the Cardinals. So back-to-back first-round picks on a wide receiver. Golden does fit in pretty well as a number 2 receiver, but they've also paid Trey McBride. It's not the worst idea, but I'd be slightly surprised given just the sheer investments there. Jihad Campbell at number 17 out of Alabama to the Bengals. We'll see what happens with Jermaine Pratt. I'm a bit surprised he wasn't cut or traded already. But if the Bengals add Campbell, then Pratt ends up being gone. Campbell is a pure off-ball linebacker. If we count Joe Moore as a hybrid, I think is the best one in this class. I'm curious what the plan would be for Kelvin Banks. Is he a guard or a tackle for Seattle? Because Seattle has to figure out their guard spot. Or would they play Banks there? Would they kick him over to the right side? Because you're not going to play him over Charles Cross. But interior O-line presence, I think, is where you're probably going to play him if you're Seattle, is a pretty big need. Nicky Manwari out of South Carolina to the Buccaneers here, which I often mock Jihad Campbell. The Bucs had some inconsistencies in the back end of their secondary, so adding a very dynamic playmaker with the athletic traits that's really intriguing, I don't hate it at all. Denver should be pretty happy here, even though I think Tedero McMillan is a little bit similar to Courtland Sutton. I think he's the best non-Travis Hunter athlete, wide receiver in this year's class. The backs are gone, Jeanty and Hampton. You got size, too. Sutton, T-Mac, and Evan Ingram is a really fun grouping in Denver. Who do you think ends up being the first wide receiver taken in this year's NFL draft? 2 main contenders, TM for Tedero McMillan, MG for Matthew Golden. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Number 21, I like this fit if they don't have a quarterback in mind, which Mel said he pivoted away from Jackson Dart here. Derek Harmon, I think, is a great fit for what Pittsburgh does on defense, and they could kind of use the help here. Gray Zabel is the pick at 22 overall, the North Dakota State guard/center. You could probably plug him in at, I think, center, although they did sign Andre James and bring back Bradley Bozeman, so I'm not sold on the Chargers pick, but it would be a Harbaugh pick, right? Offensive lineman. Packers at 23. Edge makes a lot of sense. I like the fit here with Micah Williams. This is about I think the proper range for him. He might go earlier, by the way, but this is a really good football player, upside-wise. He's a good run stopper. The pass rush consistency has not been there. The traits are, which does make him a gamble in round 1. Vikings go offensive line here. Donovan Jackson. I think a trade down is extremely likely. They are very light on draft capital. This would be a left guard option to replace Blake Brendel, and they would have totally overhauled the entirety of their interior offensive line. It'd be Jackson, Ryan Kelly, and Will Fries, both from Indy, all coming over this offseason. Houston takes a developmental offensive tackle, Josh Connerly. I think he's a bit underrated. I actually don't mind Mel putting him in round 1. I think like the Patriots, if he falls to the top of round 2, makes so much sense for him. I think give him some time to grow and develop and hopefully protect C.J. Stroud long term. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. It is the place for last-minute tickets with killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views for your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets or tickets to non-baseball games if there's not one in your area. But there's minor league games on there as well. Game Time makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices in the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. You can find incredible deals. Keep an eye out for the zone deals. It's where you pick the section. Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings along the way. The lowest price guarantee from Game Time is this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So if you haven't already, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, ChatSports, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, all guaranteed. Of course, terms do apply. Despite Sean McVay saying, and he might be lying about it, that he hasn't done a lot of work on the QBs here, he has Jackson Dart, Mel does, at 26 to the Rams, citing the potential and the future prospects. I've made my point here before. I don't see the same some of the other people do. He doesn't have bad traits. He's got good traits, but I don't think Jackson Dart has top 10 quarterback potential. He's got top 15, top 20 quarterback potential. I don't see enough elite arm strength, mobility, size. It's not bad. It's actually pretty solid. He's got better traits in some of this class, but I feel like we're forcing QBs to go earlier than maybe what they should. Big fan of Malachi Starks to the Ravens at number 27. This is a classic Ravens pick. SEC player, instant starter. Gives them some flexibility with where they want to play Kyle Hamilton, too. I do think Donovan Ezaraku out of Boston College ends up being a first-round pick. I think that the ability to bend, to get pressure, he's not the biggest guy. He's got, I think, more pass rush ability than some of the other guys we often see mocked in round 1. Shamar Stewart goes 29. I could see him going as high as 8 and as low as 32. The talent is, the traits are there. The man's got 4.5 career sacks. So how you balance that is frankly not easy. Number 30, Maxwell Harrison. Hey, they traded away Kyrie Elam. Here's a new outside corner. He was not as good this year, but he's got playmaking ability, and the entire Kentucky team was not as good this year either. The Chiefs, 31, Josh Simmons. They've signed Jalen Moore, but Simmons was playing great before he got hurt. There have been a couple different reports, though, that he needs some more maturity. I feel like Mahomes and Reed can get the most out of him, though. Number 32, James Pierce, the edge out of Tennessee. Also some character stuff there, like the phrase of what makes him tick. I've heard a couple times in terms of like focus and attitude, but the pass rush ability is there, and those guys often sneak into round 1. Let's go to round 2. We got back-to-back quarterbacks here, Tyler Shuck and Jalen Milroe. I frankly don't see the talent with Tyler Shuck, but he might be the best quarterback on the Browns roster if it's just him and Kenny Pickett. It's not saying anything. Jalen Milroe has the physical skill set, but he is not ready to play football. He needs a year, if not 2. He's got to kind of overhaul his mechanics and become a more consistent over the middle of the passer there. But back-to-back QBs, 33 and 34 to begin round 2, which we don't see that much of. We did see it with Will Levis, of course. How many QBs do you think go in round 1? And yes, Tyler Shuck is older than Trevor Lawrence, by the way, in case you were wondering. Round 1, round 2. How many QBs? Mel's got 5. What do you think the number is? Let me know in the comments of today's show. One of Mel's guys, Oluwafemi Oladejo, who I think could be a surprise round 1 pick, which I would not take him there. Tennessee gets a pass rusher. It fills a need. I think that's a lot of development you have to go through there. Emeka Ibuka, it's not the biggest need for Jacksonville, but the value is great and, help Trevor Lawrence. It makes sense. Carson Schwessinger to help out at linebacker, which I would have taken Luther Burden for the Raiders. The Patriots get him at 38, which, Will Campbell, Luther Burden is a really fun 1-2 punch in the draft. Walter Nolan, who has had mixed reviews on his film and I think some of the character stuff, by the way, as well. To the Bears at 39. I don't know if they need another interior player, but talent is there. Wanye Thomas, the Cowboys safety brother. Length on the outside. There's your Marshawn Lattimore replacement. Travion Henderson to the Bears, who, there's the running back that, you could have waited because you don't think the Saints probably would take one. You got one pick for where they're not going to go. It's kind of fun for Chicago. He's there at 41, explosive, big play machine. Elijah Arroyo, who I do like, 1-year wonder, but was really good. Was finally healthy. Medicals will matter a lot there. Kenneth Grant falls to the 43rd. I was kind of surprised by that one. That would be I would love that pick by the 49ers. Double Michigan players, which is kind of fun. Trey Amos to the Cowboys fits their archetype more often than not. Would be an outside-only corner. Jonah 7-9, I think it's how it's pronounced. He clarified it at the Combine. I haven't quite got the phonetic down yet. Helping out with some replacements. I think he's a guard in the NFL. So you plug him in there probably at right guard, ideally, in the NFL. Injured but talented corner, Benjamin Morrison. That hip is a big-time question mark, but he can slot in there at the number 2 corner spot opposite A.J. Terrell. Tyler Booker falling to 47 is noteworthy. I wouldn't be shocked if he snuck into the first round. This is, I think, one of the better value picks in Mel's mock draft. Miami gets some defensive line help. They need it. Darius Alexander, one of the better MAC players this past season. He's had some slight round 1 buzz, but I think he probably goes top 75 at minimum. JT Tuimoloau, there's an edge to help out the Bengals. Does that surprise anybody? No, I don't really think so. Savone Revel out of ECU. Man, that's a lot of fun to put Reek Wolin and I guess Devin this one on the nickel. But again, what the hell is Seattle going to do on O-line? Also, by the way, just make note, their GM loves drafting backs. I would not be shocked if they took one early. Quinshon Judkins goes to Denver here, so it's a T-Mac Judkins combo is super fun for the Broncos. We'll come back to pick 52 here. Who is the better OSU running back? TH Travion Henderson, Hugh J for Quinshon Judkins. Could be a big gap between receiver like 4 and 5. Jaden Higgins at Iowa State. I actually like Jalen Knoll more, but Higgins offers more size. Nick Scorton, who I think played too heavy at A&M, which might have been an A&M issue, not a Scorton issue, was great at Purdue. I think he can bounce back, like him in round 2. Jack Besh, which they need a receiver. I would like someone that gets open a little bit more consistently against man coverage. Mason Taylor, that is, by the way, Jason Taylor's son, Zach Thomas's nephew to the Chargers. That makes sense, doesn't it? That's a logical fit. Love the Tyreek Williams pick here to help stop the run. He could be a top 50 pick in this year's class. Isaiah Bond out of Texas. He's fast. There's talent. I think there's questions about just like the consistency overall. Jalen Knowles, a very fun player. I don't know how many slot receivers Houston needs, but I think the value of 58 is very good. David Walker out of Central Arkansas is a FCS player, very productive. I think 59 is rich for him, but he did test pretty well. Anthony Belton, this is also a little bit rich for me. This is where Mel can kind of get a little weird with some of his picks, frankly. He probably does kick inside to guard, so he can compete with Christian Mahogany for that spot. Darian Porter is a classic Dan Quinn pick because he's long, fast, and lanky. He's also old and has not been a super consistent defender. He hasn't played a lot. Xavier Watts, love that pick for Buffalo, one of my favorites. Caleb Johnson with the Chiefs is fun. He's going to be a zone-heavy runner. I like Kevin Winston, too. Eagles don't normally go safety, but it actually does fill a need with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson gone. Pinpoll time. What is Aaron Rodgers' next team, destination, whatever? S for the Steelers, R for retirement or O for other? Let me know in the pinned poll and at the pinned comment of today's video. Before we sign off today, folks, remember, we will be live for the 2025 NFL Draft. Hit that sub button if you haven't already. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Hope you guys enjoyed today's live show, and we'll see you guys again live on Tuesday, plus videos all throughout the week.